Hello and welcome to Stephanie B Creativity. Today we're going to be making apples. I'm going to make an apple for a teacher. I'm going to make a carameled apple, and I'm going to make a chocolate caramel apple. So let's get started here. I'm using the 22 needle Centro circular knitting machine. This has been upgraded with the Grumpy Owl gear. And the link is down below in the more information box. I'm using Big Twist yarn from Joanne. This is a little leftover from a skein of yarn that I have no idea what it is. It's kind of a caramely color. This is sort of a chocolate color. And this is the my red apple color. Use the colors that you have. Make it work for you. I am not using waste yarn on this. I am going to go straight in. These are going to be drawstringed at the ends, just like making a hat. Cast on with a standard back and forth cast on. So right around. This makes it easy to do the drawstring at the end. We are going to do 50 rounds. This is doubled just like a hat. So if you've made a beanie hat that has the two ends sealed and you shove the one end inside, this is exactly the same way, but halfway through, we're going to put a drawstring. So stick with me. We're going to go 26, 27 rounds. All right, we went 27 rounds. I'm going to grab the other end of this yarn. There we go. I want a piece that is going to go all the way around when it's knitted in. We're just going to lay this in and knit it with everything else. Exactly the same. It's not going to change anything. Just go slowly. And when you get back to this first, go ahead and drop that tail to the inside, and now we're going to continue to 50 rounds. And 50 rounds. Do a long tail cast off. It doesn't have to be super long because as you draw it through, it doesn't need as much. But this is the way I like to do it. Starting with this first needle here, there's no yarn holding it onto the machine. So I'm going to pick up a couple and just work my way around and pick up right off the machine. See, what happens is that you can end up pulling them off. So you don't want to crank out too many. There we go. See? But after you've gotten past the first two or three, you can pick up several at a time before you have to draw the yarn through. So just see, I'm picking up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whoops. If you have any tension on your knitting, see, now I've dropped a stitch here. Right there. I'm just going to pick that stitch back up. Just using my yarn needle. Pull that loop through. Uh-oh, pulled off of that one too. There we go. And pick this last stitch up. Take it off. Before I drawstring my ends in, I need to go and find where my tails are that are on the inside. I'm going to tuck those both to the outside. Just find a convenient space and pull them through to the outside. Just like that. Now I'm going to stretch this. And you see how one end is going to be like 27 stitches long and the other one is 23 stitches long. All right. The one that's 23 is going to be my inside. Start off with first, I'm going to drawstring this down. You can get both ends closed first. Once you have your drawstring tails for the middle pulled out, which is actually going to be for the bottom or the top. So run around those stitches. You don't need your stuffing quite yet, but make sure you've got some polyfill stuffing. Basic tools that I've got, darning needle and scissors and the knitting machine. That's really all the tools you need. You can do this with a hand knitting loom if you want to. And I'm going to tie that off. Like that. Run the needle up through the inside and out. Snip that one off. Then I am going to go ahead and tuck that in because my stuffing is actually going to go inside here. So it looks like this drawstring edge is going to be the top of my apple. This one down here is the bottom, and I can go ahead and pull. I do want to get these ends connected just like a hat. So I'm going to pull that down nice and tight, grab my yarn needle, darning needle, whatever you've got. See, I pulled that little string through. I could have left that longer. I'm going to tie a knot, pull that down nice and tight, tie a knot, and I will tuck these ends back through. But I am going to run around the bottom of this real quick. This is perfectly safe because I'm going to use a felt stick when I make the stem or when I'm using it for the caramel apples. So run that up in between, just like normal. I'm going to stick my needle in between here and then thread that yarn. Nice thing about these yarn needles is that they're really huge eye. So just fold the yarn over and poke it through and pull it through. And then you can just pop that to the inside, just like that. Now we're going to put our stuffing in the apple. I'm just using some Crafters Polyfill. One of the reasons for making this like a little beanie, oh, and you can also do this as a little beanie without that extra drawstring and make this into really cute little decorations. So you're getting all kinds of tips here. I hope that you are enjoying this. If you're finding value in this lesson, please click that subscribe button. And make sure and click the like button too. All right, I'm just taking a wad of stuffing and stuffing it down in. With it being doubled like it is, with it being doubled, you do not see any of the stuffing. That's the part I really, really like. I'm going to pull on my drawstring like that. And then you can smush and squish. I am going to go ahead and thread one end, one tail, it doesn't matter. Just thread one tail. We're going to go around that opening. And before I close it down tight, I will take a piece of my folded and sewn felt for the stem and a little bit of tacky glue. If you're giving it to a kid, I would also take a needle and thread. and stitch it down a little bit tighter. But for us, we can do this. Whoops, slid out of the... All right, like that. So now we can tighten that down really tight. Don't cut these off yet because we're going to stitch down through after we've put a piece of our stem in. I'm just gonna cut this there. Grab some glue. Just give it a nice squirt down in there. Take your stem and push it in. All right, now I'm going to take and tie a knot nice and tight around the stem. That just holds it in place while you're waiting for the glue to dry. I am going to go ahead now and thread both ends. Just trim them so they're close. Thread both ends through the darning needle. I'm going to go down past the stem all the way to the bottom. This is where you get to shape your apple a little bit. So look at that. You can pull it in just a little. I'm going to thread it around the bottom so I can get a little more tension on it and pull it down just a smidge more. You can take a piece of green felt and make yourself a leaf. Stitch it on or glue it on, whichever way works for you. And then I'm going to go up through, trim this off. A neat thing here, you can reshape these. You can kind of squish it and make it a tall apple. So when you squish it and shape it, make this into a little red delicious apple. Oh. Red Delicious, Blossom End. There it is. So let's make a caramelled apple. Caramelled apple is exactly the same way, except you're going to do 8 rounds with the red first. Long tail cast on. Now we're going to do 8 rounds. We're going to switch colors to the caramel color. Then we will go all the way to 27. So... all right, that's 8 rounds. Leave enough of a tail so that you can tie it to your color, your new color. This is sort of a kind of a caramely butterscotch color. Use whatever colors you have. If you have something that's even more caramely, go for it. Where I took my yarn out, right here at this black needle, I am going to cross my yarn and drop it on that black needle. I will make sure that when my yarn goes down, it's taking down both the caramel color and the apple color. I'm just doing a granny knot for now, just one side. I'm going to go ahead a couple cranks. Once that join has dropped all the way down, now I'm going to give it a nice tug and give it a nice tie. I don't have to worry about weaving those ends in because this is on the inside of a doubled apple. So we're good. And now I'm going to go to 27. 27. Just from the other end of my yarn here, my ball, I'm going to grab a piece of yarn to make my drawstring. I'm going to just drop it in, leave a tail, work these two all the way around to here. Ooh, just barely made it, eh? But it's long enough. And now I'm going to go to 50. Now we're going to cut off onto your darning needle. Go forward. Just a few at a time. Right, just like the other one, we're going to drawstring the ends together, but first, through the two strands through one hole. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and draw that together. Tuck that in. Drawstring that together. This is going to be the top, so I don't want to close that tight yet. And this is the bottom. So we're going to draw that in. There's a lot of yarn here, so just be careful when you're drawing it in. We're going to be making a squishy out caramel on the bottom. So that's the reason why the outside is bigger than the inside. I want a little bit more stuffing. Every apple is going to be different. Every caramel apple is going to turn out looking different. I'm going to draw this in. And I'm going to use these ends and kind of stitch back and forth across. And I'm going to leave my tail because I want to pinch and stitch this down on the outside so that it ends up looking like that caramel puddle. That's the tricky bit on this one. I'm going to pull my drawstring through though. See, if you're careful, you can pull on one end. Put the tail on the darning needle. I think I'm not going to close it any tighter than that with the drawstring because I do want to make that caramely bit all squishy down. So I'm going to tie that off like that, tuck this short end in, and now I'm going to stitch through some loops back and forth to kind of close up the bottom. So across like that, back and forth. This is an experiment. We're doing experimental caramel apple right now. First one I've made. Oh, that's going to work just fine. And then go across. So I sort of went north-south. Now I'm going east and west. Through the bottom, kind of weaving my stitches together. I don't want them to end up, looking like it was stitched back and forth across. So I'm sort of weaving them in. I want to make sure it's closed tight. You don't want the stuffing to come out. All right, so now I'm going to stitch to give it a sort of a little knot. Just stitch and then pull my yarn through the loop. Right here, pull it through the loop. And do that a couple times. So now I'm going to go and pinch. Now this apple is not finished. That gives me a little bit of room to pull on the caramel. So I'm going to pinch it, and I'm going to stitch back and forth through the pinch, like that. And it doesn't have to stay exactly perfect. I'm not measuring how many stitches up and down this is. It is the same color yarn. It's not going to show. This is going to be so cool. You can sculpt. That's what we're doing here. So we're sculpting this. We're sculpting the yarn. We're sculpting the knitting. We're doing the stitching. This is amigurumi. This is knitted amigurumi. You could put a little face on it if you wanted to. Put little eyes. Put a happy mouth. You know, make everything as cute as you want it to be, or as real as you want it to be. I kind of wanted this one to be sort of real. Sort of. You know, it's not going to be perfect. But it's going to be mine. And these are so quick. The actual making of one apple takes me about 15 minutes total for knitting and sculpting. I think that's pretty good. You get a whole basket of apples really fast. And if you just knitted off your tubes first and then sat in front of a fun show or turn on some music and just do all of your sculpting, the time would just go by so fast. And we're all the way back around to the beginning of the caramel dripple, the caramel foot on this apple. There we go. So you already know how to make a basic apple. You know how to make a carameled apple. I'm going to make a chocolate apple. It's exactly the same way. So I'm just going to make it and then I will show it to you. But we're going to finish this off right here. I'm just going to kind of knot that off. For a really cute presentation on the little apples like this, you could, for the carameled apples, grab a piece of felt to use as parchment paper. I'm going to bring it all the way through because this is how I'm going to be shaping the top of this apple and the bottom of the apple. Like that. So once you've got your tail from the bottom pulled through, I'm going to take a couple stitches just on the inner liner and then take it and push it back out through the bottom. The reason to do that is so you can get this top to pull in and down. So you have room to put your stick. I'm going to throw some glue on that. You can use a real stick. You can use, I'm using a felt stick because I want this to be kid friendly. So I'm going to put my stick in for the carameled apple. Then I'm going to finish stitching this around the stick. So pull it tight, stitch it around the stick. I'm going to bring it over to the point where I've got that tail from the inside so I can join them together, tie it in a knot. I'm going to take this long tail of the red back down through, all the way through and out the bottom. That's going to help us get that divot in the center of the apple so we can pull it down just like that. And we can shape. I'm going to tie these two together at the bottom. Put the two ends together. And just run them back through and out. Trim them off. I still have this end right here. I'm just going to put my needle through, thread that through the needle eye like that, and pull it to the inside, trim it off, and smush. Oh, look how adorable. Now, when you do it this way, the stick really doesn't hold the apple up. But you could put a small skewer or a dowel. You could use a dowel. I just wanted this to be soft in case it was for a kid. Now I'm going to shape this up just a little bit and shape this down just a little bit. Squish them. Make them cute little apples. Now this is a little carameled red delicious apple. I say it is red delicious too. It looks delicious. Now, what I was saying before is if you took a square of felt that's sort of a parchment color, you could do that. You could put a little piece of Velcro on there and you could stick it on so that it sticks to the paper. Oh, that is absolutely adorable. Stick around and I'll show you what the chocolate apple looks like. So I hope that you will try this. Make some apples for yourself. Make some apples to fill a basket. Use these as giveaways for those kids that come for Halloween trick-or-treating or any other time that you've got kids that can't have the candy, but you want to give them something special. They get something a lot more special than a piece of candy. And you can give them candy apples. Make a whole bunch of these as decorations, as favors for parties. Have fun. These work great for costuming also. So just let your imagination run wild with all the colors. Make poisoned apples and candied apples and chocolate apples and caramel apples, and make green apples and red apples. Make black apples. Ooh, a black apple. That could be kind of fun. Might have to just make one of those. Thank you so much. Remember to click that like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video with your friends, and go out, do something creative, take care of yourself, and be kind. I'll see you soon. Bye!